Chip, would you like to lead us to pledge allegiance? I'm sorry, I don't have US flag.
Sure. I don't have a flag either, but if everyone would follow along, we'll do it virtually. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are we live? Okay. Let's go to the roll call. Vinita Verma here. Chip?
I'm here.
Carla?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Kathy?
Here.
Shiv?
Yeah, here.
Susan? Not here. Paul? Not here. This is it. I don't think there are any more committee members, right? And we are looking for at least 4 or 5 more committee members. Brian is here as a citizen, and we are giving him space to be in the meeting as a citizen. And for refugee staff, Nancy, Miss Pfeiffer, she's not here. Kelly?
He's here.
Kelly's here. Clarissa?
Yes, here.
Thank you. Lisa?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Eddie? Not here. Louis Zamora?
Eddie Contreras is no longer with facilities, so he will not be here.
Ah, okay. Thank you. That's what I needed to know. Louis Zamora is still with us or not? He is still with the facilities?
Louis
just-
is taping for us.
Okay. So when we do roll call, do we call his name?
No, we don't. We don't usually call his name.
Eric?
Eric Chu is no longer with the district either.
Really?
Yes, he is now in San Carlos.
Oh. Sharon Coco? Not here. Kelly, she is still with us, right?
Yes, in fact, I just saw her earlier. She's gonna be there, but both of us are kind of late because traffic is so bad tonight. So I apologize, but she's probably en route home too.
That's okay. Judith?
She's not here. I don't
No.
know if she's coming.
No, not that I know of.
Okay.
So I could have just skipped the FUSC staff and made sure that Kelly did it, but I needed to know who is with us, who's continuing with us or not. So I can update the mailing list. We don't have any guests.
Brian's a guest.
Brian is guest, of course. Brian is guest. Sorry, and thank you very everybody for hanging in with me. I'm trying to learn what Chip is so fluent in, and these are my first tiny steps. I hope you can forgive me for my mistakes. Welcome and introduction. Do we need any introductions, Kelly, or do we know everybody? I think we know everybody, right?
Laura is new.
Just say hi.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we should probably introduce Laura and give her an opportunity to say who she is.
Absolutely.
Hi, I met some of you earlier, but I'm Laura Forrest. I'm the new Public Information Officer for Fremont Unified School District. I'm going to be taking minutes for this meeting.
Great.
Thank you, Laura.
You're off the hook, Kathy.
That was going to be my question. Who's taking the minutes?
I earlier requested Kelly to send us somebody who can take the meeting minutes. So you were off the hook. Did you get a chance to look at the meeting minutes from October 6th?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes.
Thank you, Chip. Any seconds? I'm hoping for a second.
I'll second it. It's Carla.
Thank you, Carla.
Mhm.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody who objects to the meeting minutes, please say nay. Meeting minutes will be recorded as presented. Thank you very much. Are there any written and, or oral communications?
We have not received any written or oral communications from the community.
Thank you, Candy. Brian, you have your hand up.
I wanted to share a brief oral communication.
Sure, please go ahead.
And it is related to something later on your agenda, but I did want to note, it's probably going to come up anyways, but do want to note that there was some concern expressed by the Board of Education in their last meeting that some of the funds received from the state were added back to the Measure E contingency. And so some questions about how this fund's coming back from the state, where they should appear in the budgets and how they should be utilized. So I think that'll be a future topic for the board and something that is of keen interest to the CBOC. And I did like the Associate Superintendent's suggestion to kind of clearly split out those funds so it's clear what came back from the state, what as well. So that's my remark for that item.
And you will see that in the updated financial report, Brian, tonight.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Lisa.
How much money was that, Brian? Roughly,
I'm sorry, what was the question?
roughly how much money was that?
I will leave it to staff to address that. I think it'll be in the report.
I think the
Later.
report, Chip, the report that was sent out earlier by Vanita, I think it was like around 15 million. Was
Okay, I thought
But
maybe that was it. All right, we'll wait till the finance report.
It actually is listed individually on the, as a line item of OPSC funding.
Okay, that's what, yeah, that was new on that was new on the report, and I wasn't sure what that was.
Yes, correct.
Thank you for the clarification, and we'll have further discussion, I'm sure.
Thank you. There was one person who reached out to us, but it was not regarding CBOC. It was regarding how to become part of CBOC. So we directed her to the right link and asked her to apply for the CBOC committee.
Okay, good.
Thank you. CBOC public briefing. Do we have any public briefings? No, I don't think we did any public briefings last month.
No,
Thank you, Chip. CPSC membership and terms of service. I'm not sure, Chip, what was that?
okay, well, what this one is Kelly or someone from FUSD, has the board approved the updated roster and the positions and the terms that all of us have?
I received clarification and they have not. So
Okay,
it was on the agenda and I believe that there was a motion for them to bring it back. So we will be bringing it back to them for final approval.
okay.
Will that be, Kelly, about 3 of us being permanent members or instead of alternate? Is that the one you're talking about?
I'm not sure I understand your question. So can you?
I think that
repeat
was,
it?
Vanita, I think that was already done, right? Didn't you say that you
Yeah, that
you
was.
had
So
stayed awake for a board meeting to make sure? So it's not, I don't think it's referring to you. I think it's referring to, so for example, I think my term is up this year, and there was other people that, and I think we had asked Kelly to find out if we needed to reapply or what the necessary steps were, and to clarify that, because we also need to also potentially I think we need to also know which member is representing which group, whether it's the parent group, the parent teacher group, the business association, the because there's these designated categories that should be filled, and I'm just also wanting to get clarification as to which member fits into which category.
I've got a file on that, Carla, as to who represents what category. And I think it was, wasn't it attached to a recent email, a recent message that went out?
Yeah, it was in the, on the agenda for last month.
Yeah, and I do know, Carla, you and I both are others in the other category, and we both have to have another term. We're in our second, and our second term started in October of 2019. And so I think that they're 2-year terms. So we are two people that they need to do something with us.
Yeah, I think that's what we were asking Kelly to find out if we
Yeah.
needed to,
I don't remember reapplying the last time.
It is my understanding, and I didn't get full confirmation from our legal counsel, but I believe that you guys do have to reapply once your term is up. There's no limit to the amount of terms that you can serve. So every year we have to go through elections, but every year, if your term ends, you have to reapply, and you can still be a member, but you can't necessarily hold the previous position or something for the 3 consecutive terms.
Kelly, I think whoever gave you that information has different information than I think most of us, because, for example, Brian termed out.
Right.
And there's some terms are 2-year terms, and some, I think there's a term that is a 3-year term. So it is very confusing. And I will grant you that, but Brian did age out after 3 terms, and he had a term that began in 2014, a term that began in 2017, and then his final term expired this last October. So that was, he had 3-year terms. Some of us have 2-year terms. So they aren't 1 year. And when I was reappointed on my second term, I don't think that I had to reapply. I think it just happened. So I think that is really something, and I know there's been a lot of change in FUSD personnel and everything, but I think it's not clear as to how the term stuff goes. Okay.
I will ask
You guys-
them
Do you guys
again.
see the table that's on the screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, because this is what I sent to, I can't remember whether it was Sharon or Eddie during the summer. And they were gonna make a table or something to present to the board. And I don't know if that ever got presented at the board meeting in the last 1 or 2 months or not, but this kind of summarizes where everybody's term is. And right, Brian is termed out, Ashok and Jeff both termed out. And a whole bunch of us need to be updated with new expiration dates. And or expiration dates that are due. And then we have all these current vacancies that we need to fill, that need to be filled. So hopefully the board is going to take action on these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or not 7. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4 seats that are expiring about now. That would be Kathy, Chip, Carla, and Paul.
And there were previously empty vacant seats too, right?
Yeah, all the vacant seats are down here on the bottom.
Yeah.
We've got business, taxpayer, parent teacher organization, senior citizen, and other. All the alternate, basically all the alternate seats are still open.
So this is Carla. I do remember reapplying when my first term was up, and I think Ken Blackstone, right? he's the one who asked from the district, asked me to just fill out, like a 1-page thing to submit to him so he could bring it before the board. So I don't know. I mean, I do remember reapplying, so I don't know what the process is now and if there's like a consistent process. And I think our bylaws do say that you cannot serve more than 3 consecutive terms.
Or
So
6
whether-
years, a grand total of 6 years.
Because it's either, and then
It's either-
no more than
Either 2
6
3-year terms
consecutive
or
years.
3 2-year terms.
And no more than 6 years.
You get a grand total of 6 years on the board. On the CBOC board, I mean. On the committee, I mean, sorry, I said board, I meant committee.
Yeah. So I think it's just a matter of, I think we just need those two questions answered. One, do we need to fill out the little 1-page sheet to submit to FUSD personnel to get that in front of the board? That would be the first question. It's either a yes or a no. And then the second is, what if everyone has, I guess, fulfilled these other categories, then we just need to fill more of the alternate spots. It would be my understanding.
As far as the application goes, I don't know the answer to that. Frankly, I don't remember filling out an application other than my original one, but my memory may have lost track of that, whether after my first term I did that or not. I don't remember.
I'll verify and then I'll send out the applications to everyone that's required to have them.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I am trying to. Next agenda item is, of course, plan to fill CBOC vacancies, as we have mentioned and as Chip has mentioned, that we really have lots of vacancies on our committee, and we have to actively promote the vacancies. I did go to the board meeting last week, and I did promote it. I did say that we have we would like the community to apply. So that's why I'm hoping the one person that approached us was because of that reason. But 1 is not enough. We need, as you know, we need around 6, 7, or 8. I don't even know how many people, because voting members in the committee are very few. Most of you are from FUSD, but the committee members by themselves are very few.
Vanita, maybe this is a question that Laura could answer, I guess. In the past, I remember that the announcement for the need for CBOC members has been put in all the school newsletters, because I think that's how I first heard about it, was through one of my kids' school newsletters. Is it possible to do something similar?
The need for committee members, including CBOC, was put in the district-wide newsletter that went out on Friday night. So it went to every enrolled student's family, and it's every school website and the district website. It was one of many items, so we can continue to push it and send it out to schools and ask them to include it in their newsletters, because I know that some parents and guardians might read that more than they would the district, or just get it in front of them again. So we can ask schools to do that, but it is on all the schools' websites right now as part of the district-wide newsletter.
Oh, good.
But that won't get some of the things, for example, business organizations, or taxpayer organizations.
Right.
And so
we also include a presentation that the superintendent's taking to community organizations, the need for committee members. So he's recruiting there. But you're right, there's some of these categories we need to push it out in different ways. I'll definitely take your suggestions.
And I noticed that the superintendent's been appearing for FUSD on Facebook. And while we all have a lot of doubts about Facebook and stuff at this point, that might be another possible venue, because you're reaching a very wide part of the population. Well, a part of the population. Anyway,
Thank you, Kathy, because I was going to talk about it that too. I don't know, Laura, what are the rules about sharing committee vacancies on social media by FUSD, but I think that will be a good avenue to approach, especially when we are talking about senior citizens or business owners or taxpayers. They might not be getting the newsletters or might not be attending superintendent's messages or town halls or anything. But if we send it out in public, if you put it on Facebook, I'll share it on my Facebook, and and I'm sure everybody else will share it on their Facebook. So I'm hoping we'll get more committee members. Thank you, Laura. Nancy is not here, right? I don't see Nancy. So Chip, do you have anything in your mind how do you want to introduce her? Or Kelly?
Oh, she's not here. She's not here. So there's no need to introduce her.
Okay.
I thought, based on our meeting we had last Friday, she may be attending, but she might have got sidetracked.
Yeah.
But if she, next time next meeting we have and she's here, we'll introduce her
Sure.
as the associate superintendent. And Brian Kilgore's replacement is Laura. She's here. And she's been introduced, so. And
we are
I
done
think,
with-
I think everybody else is a known entity.
Okay.
I see
So
Paul is here now. Good.
Yeah, it took me about a half hour to figure this thing out, but I finally did. I don't know what I'm doing on these damn computers.
All right.
Sorry, Paul.
Okay. Frustrating as hell, I'll tell you.
I can totally understand. Are we ready with financial audit report discussion that we wanted to have? Chip, do you want to share
No,
something?
right above that, the Measure E program audit status. And there's a special meeting. We want to announce the special meeting, Benita.
So the special meeting is on November 8th, right?
Right.
Monday.
November 8th, which is Monday. At 6 p.m.
Yep.
I will send you more information as it comes to me, but with due to the new rules, it has to be in person. So I'll have to trouble you guys to come to FUSD boardroom at Technology Drive.
Okay.
We will have the agenda. We will have the audit report about, I don't know whether it will be 24 hours or 72 hours before the meeting. So when it is available, I'll send it to you too. If you have any questions, we can discuss it in the email or wait till Monday, November 8th, to have the discussion at the boardroom.
Right.
So Vanita, what are the new rules? Is it that you referenced?
Oh, the rule is that, the law states that FUSD board members cannot have a Zoom meeting. It has to be in-person meeting.
Good.
So
I like that better.
So Paul's happy. That's good. And then I think I don't know about email discussions, because I think one of the main things with the Brown Act is that everything that we do has to be in public. Like I think the training remember when somebody came to talk to us, they used the terminology like everything that we do has to be in the sunshine, like has to be for everyone to see. So I don't know about the email idea.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any other ideas about that, since this was brought by us, and before the audit report comes to us, it has to go through board. So if we don't have any comments or questions prepared, then we'll have to go to the board meeting and represent ourselves and not talk as CBOC and have the questions presented to them as ourselves. If we don't get an opportunity to talk to each other before the meeting.
Could we put the report on our agenda for December?
We will put it for our December agenda. However, the report will be presented to us during the board meeting. The joint board meeting, that's what they are calling it. It's emergency joint board meeting.
So I think that we could potentially let, the board know that this is the first time, I mean, besides the 24 hours, that we've been able to look at it, and we haven't had a chance to discuss it as the CBOC, and then that we potentially may have further comment depending on our review. I think that seems appropriate.
That sounds fair. What do you guys think?
I think that's what CJ, when we met with CJ on Friday last week, he mentioned that he recognized we might have, we're going to be hearing this report from Total School Solutions live and in real time, just like everyone else is, and that the CBOC may have follow-up questions that we want to ask. So I think the time to discuss that would be the December CBOC, and we would put together our list of questions at that time and then submit them back to the FUSD board and for follow-up from Total School Solutions.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that's a fair thing.
Yeah.
That means we will not have any much comments to present or discuss during that particular board meeting. It will be more or less us listening to them.
Right. If we have any questions, we can ask them. If we want clarification, at the time of the presentation, we can ask for clarification and any additional information that they might be able to provide at that meeting. Now, if we ask for something that they've got to go back and get more information, then the process continues. But we should feel free to ask questions openly during that meeting and ask for clarification. But at the same time, we're not going to approve the audit report at that meeting. We're going to come back and among us have a meeting and probably in December. And if we have any further questions, need more information, we'll continue to follow up at that stage.
So that means we will not be even approving. There is no guarantee that we'll be approving it in December either. That means our December meeting is going to be more or less discussion on the report by itself.
Yeah, if we don't need any further information to approve it, we potentially could approve it.
Okay.
But if there's still follow-up that we need more information, then it would probably extend out another month.
Okay. Sorry, I'm still reading. Are we ready with the? Hang on. September 2021 Measure E budget report. Reopen on discussion. Chip, do you want to? I'm not sure.
Well,
Clarissa.
The next item is the financial audit report follow-up, the Williamson project. The money that was, we've been tracking this action item for many months now. And we've been looking for a written statement from the finance department to close this action item. Kelly, any information?
Yes, that should have been forwarded to you guys about 2 weeks ago.
Who would
But
it come from?
I'll follow it. It should come from Eddie, because that was one of the last things that he was supposed to do on his list before he left. But if you guys don't have it, then I need to follow back up and find out if he ever did it. And if not, I have to go ahead and send that to you guys. But what it was is that in the audit report, the auditors had mentioned the $3 million for the Williamson site. And there were funds that were earmarked, but were never actually, there were no expenditures for Williamson that ever occurred within the last 6 years from Measure E. The $3 million has now been identified, and I believe it's coming out of Fund 40, which is the developer fund. That is the appropriate place for it to be. And they basically showed you where that is listed in the Fund 40 expenditure sheet, as well as the demonstration to show that there's never been the $3 million taken out of Measure E. And speaking with the auditor, she had stated that that was just a note that she had taken and had seen within the Fremont Unified's accounting notes. And that's why she identified it that way. But there are no funds that have ever been taken from Measure E for Williamson at this time. And the funds that they were taken from was from Fund 40. And I believe that dates all the way back to like 2017 when that particular action occurred. So, but like I said, I'll find out where that information is that Eddie was supposed to share with you guys and send it out to you again.
Yeah, I don't see it. I'm looking through my old emails.
Sure.
Yeah,
We didn't receive it.
Kelly, I think you said last time that it was that Robbie Pasquale was going to take care of it.
And Robbie did. That's
okay.
that's the financial information that he shared
Okay.
with me, was the spreadsheet to show me with the report dates and
Yeah.
all of that information, you know, as to what fund and where and when and all that stuff.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Well,
I
the
don't-
action is still open. We're waiting for the information.
Yeah, we did not receive any emails, so we'll wait. We're looking for a written statement from FUSD. So I think, Chip, we are done with that part, right? That this
Yep.
is it. That yeah. And the next agenda item is for Clarissa or Kelly about September 2021 Measure E budget report.
Yes, the October,
Oh, it's October. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
October 31st. And I'll share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
No?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So this is the financial report for the month of October.
Clarissa,
And,
can you just make it a teeny bit bigger? Because it's just a little hard to see.
Yes. Let me see. How's that?
That's
It's
really
good.
good.
You'll have to scroll left and right, but that's fine.
Yeah. That's too big. How about that? Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. So the available funding increased by 667,000 to the 684, this number here that you see here. And that was due in part of some earned interest was added to the revenue. So we did have a separation here for the OPSC for state funding and program contingency. And as you can see, let me see if I can scroll over a little. There's a split here of OPSC amount of 15 million and the program contingency of 2.7. The total of that is the 18,608,000, which is an increase from the last program contingency of 16,285,000. In part because we did the sweeps that that was requested to do for the 5 sites, the VoIP, Grimmer, Walters, Washington, and the American high school projects. So we can kind of look.
So is the OPSC,
Scroll to the left, Clarissa.
is the OPSC funding actually going to be considered contingency or what is it? What is it considered?
Right now, Chip, we're getting clarification because it's my understanding it's been a practice that we've been taking the OPSC reimbursements and putting it in the measure.
Ooh,
The
Kelly.
board has requested to actually Hello, can you
Yes,
see me
sir.
or hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
And so that's why we're breaking this out. Now, in terms of whether it'll stay as part of the program contingency or not, that is going to be a board decision that they will be discussing at the next meeting.
So last month we had 16.3 million in contingency.
Yes,
Now,
That's
did
correct.
that, was any of that money actually OPSC or none of that was OPSC?
The 15,887,000 was OPSC. And if you, Clarissa, go ahead and finish your summary.
so like I said, the program contingency was 16.285 and it increased to 18.6. And we had to split those up into the two pots here, which is the OPSC state funding and the program contingency. So both these amounts will total the 18 million that I'm speaking of. And that that entailed the 5 projects that we swept last month. Was the VoIP and Grimmer, Walters, Washington, and American High School projects. Total swept was about 1.6 million. So that got added into these two combined amounts of 18 million, as well as the 667,000 internal interest revenue that we went ahead and applied to the revenue. And as far as expenditures for the month, scroll down here. These are all the projects. And here, expenditures grew to about 181 million, 0.2, and that was an increased expenditure to about 6 million for the month. Does anybody have any other questions?
I guess I wasn't aware of until now that the contingency in the past, when we had about 16 million, that about 15,887,000 was OPSC state funding. I didn't realize that.
Yes.
I never realized that.
So now it's broken out.
So I have a question about that. The projects that are OPSC state funded, weren't those also projects that basically CBOC, the Measure E funds were used to pay for those projects while we were awaiting state funding? So basically, I always thought, my understanding was that this state funding was reimbursing Measure E for the projects that we had paid for.
You're absolutely right, Carla. But the problem that I am running into, I have no written documentation from anywhere that says that that was the policy that the board or that you all as a committee had actually voted on and approved to say that that is the case. Because there are several board members who believe that those funds should not go into the bond and should be available to use on other things that are needed within the district. And so that's why this has come about. And we are still in the process of trying to find what that documentation is. And unfortunately, I'm at a disadvantage because of course I inherited all that we have, but I don't have the information from the very beginning to say that there was a board action to say that this practice is what was approved.
Well, you
But
mentioned the committee making a decision on that, and certainly not during my tenure on the committee did we ever make that sort of decision. And I don't think that's even within the realm of something the committee can make a decision on. We can raise an objection if we see something being spent where it's not appropriate. But as far as a trade goes, I don't think, and I'm sure, I don't think Chip or Brian or Carla would remember that either.
I don't remember it that way. And you're right, it's not a decision we would make. We might.
No, it's not a decision.
Raise a question, but it's not a decision we would be able to make.
So I don't know, my curiosity about this is that, this was, again, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, but remember all the times we've seen these reports where it talks about Prop 39 funding or Prop 51 funding, all of that is this the same thing that we're talking about?
No, it's not.
Okay.
So Prop 39 and Prop 51 is the OPSC funds. Prop 39 is actually funds that are being replenished back in the bond as they're being, returned to us, or the matching funds that we're supposed to get back. But it's the OPSC Prop 51 that's in question, which, as you all can see, makes a significant impact to the overall contingency fund that is listed in the reports.
Kelly, what direction has Alameda County Board of Education given to you guys about usage of this money? Have you reached out to them?
I'm sorry, Benita, I didn't quite understand what your question was.
So about OPSC funding and where it should be used, whether it should come to CBOC or not. Has there been any direction from Alameda County Board of Education?
No, this is not a Alameda County Board of Education decision. It's actually a school-based decision. So each school has the ability to decide what they do with those funds once they are given back to them. And so that's where we are in terms of getting direction from the board, because as I said, they're split on some remember saying, oh yeah, we're going to reimburse the bond, and others are like, well, no, I don't remember that. And who said that that was allowed? And so that's why we're now being asked to separate all this out. And, Vanner inherited this from Harris. And it's my understanding that was the practice that was just continued when Vanner came. And then we're now looking through Harris documentation to see if there is any board action or a discussion or a memorandum of something that says that this is what the practice should be for when these funds are received and placed in this particular fund.
I guess we don't have a resolution until you have a resolution. So we'll wait for you to tell us what you find.
Absolutely. I will definitely do that. It's definitely one that has taken up a lot of time and our resources to try and figure it out, because we just don't know, unfortunately.
Can I put it in the December agenda?
Sure.
Okay. And you'll let us know if you know something about it before that. You'll let us know.
Of course.
Thank you.
So I think I'm still trying to clearly understand this, because it seems to me that Measure E funds were used to pay for projects at certain schools, and the CBOC was told that the district was applying for funds to try to recoup those costs, is what I remember. And I think my concern would be basically, I think there's kind of a bit of a lack of, I don't want to say trust, but I think that knowing that those projects could potentially be paid for through a different source, then that kind of lent CBOC to believe that those funds would be replenished. I mean, I think that was my understanding whenever they talked about applying for these different state funding projects, because basically how I look at this, and I'm sorry for being frank, it seems like they're trying to take $15 million away from Measure E funds. That's how I look at it. Does anyone else not agree or disagree?
I would
Actually,
agree.
I agree with you, Carla, and
Yeah.
that would prompt certainly something from us.
Yeah, if we came to this meeting next month and this 15,887,000 was gone, we would be quite concerned.
And I'm wondering, was this covered in, we sat through yearly audit reports. Now, mind you, that the audit was done at a different sort of level, but was there ever, I can't even remember, was there ever a mention in those audit reports about this?
No, this is purely a board related question and inquiry. This has never been an issue. In fact, in most districts where bond funds are used, it is just a standard of practice that OPSC funds automatically replenish the bond funds that were used based on what you all have just described, where these funds were initiated knowing that these funds would be coming. And as the funds come, the pot is replenished. So
That's correct.
I don't have an answer for you guys other than this is a board request and inquiry. And until I can get clarification for them, we have identified these numbers for you all to see in this manner so that everybody is clear as to what funds are what and where they reside.
Okay,
So-
I think that the board has to be made aware that we are now aware of this. And the reason they have oversight committees is to make sure things are done in a consistent and correct manner. And if the board should make that decision, I think there's avenues that we as a committee would take.
And I
Could
agree.
take. And I
agree.
think the board needs to be aware of that. There's a lot of new members on that board. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
And I would just add that I 100% agree with what Kelly's saying. I've worked in a number of districts as well over my years, and it is somewhat of a standard practice that OPS funding, which is state match funding, typically goes back into the bond to replenish the bond, because you do see in projects overruns or, escalation, things that exceed what your bond project budget would have been planned at initially. And so those funds feed back into the system and help support that. So it's just it's a standard practice, and I would agree with what Kelly said.
So I do know the board is aware that you all are being notified of this inquiry. And they also have been made aware that you all will be, you all review this monthly, and there potentially may be questions or concerns about how this money is appropriated. And so as I said, once I have verification, and I don't know that I can find verification, I think it's important for you all as the committee to make sure that you document and voice your concerns so that it is put on the record as such, and then they can act accordingly from that.
Okay, do we have any more discussions on this, or do you want to give some more directions to Kelly and the board? Not the board, but Kelly.
I don't know, Clarissa, was there anything else you wanted to point out to them that was a difference from our last report?
No, that was it.
Okay.
I got one more question. I got one more question.
Yeah.
Clarissa, how much did the contingency, the 2,721,000, how much did that increase because of project roll-up money?
Total that, let's see, total on the project sweep was 1,655,000 that was added back into program contingency. So the total project contingency is like, between the two 15 and the two, it's about 18 million.
Right.
Okay, Kelly, I have a question also, kind of in relation to this whole thing that's been going on about the state funding and the controversy. Is there any connection or nexus to what you brought up at the last meeting where certain new personnel in the district think that bond funds can be used for maintenance, and this is an avenue to use that for maintenance because there's a shortfall in maintenance as opposed for the bond? Is there a connection in that thinking?
There is a direct line, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. That's good information for us to have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And I believe the next thing on the agenda, Benita, is the summary report, and Lisa is prepared to share that with you all.
Yes,
If there's
please,
no
thank you.
questions on the financials.
Does anyone else have any questions on the finances, or can we move to the next agenda item?
This is Carla again, Benita. I
Yes,
do
please.
want to ask when, so the comment was made that there are people who have different opinions on the board about that funding. Is there a date as to when decisions are going to be made about that $15 million?
It is my understanding it will be a topic of a discussion for the November 17th board meeting. But I believe if you all meet with the board on Monday, you all also have an opportunity at that time to potentially discuss this with them as well, since it is related to, your CBOC report as well as the audit.
I beg to differ, Kelly. I don't think we can, because it's a special board meeting and they don't give us opportunity to give public comments, and there is an agenda item, and that's all they can talk about. They will not discuss anything else.
Okay.
So if the audit report, which we have yet to see, if that report mentions this kind of $15 million amount, then I think that would potentially make it a topic of discussion.
Yes, but I don't think, because the audit report is from March, and if I'm not wrong, this $15 million came about a couple of months back, so it might not show in the audit report, right, Kelly?
Actually, it should, because they had an opportunity, the auditors had an opportunity to see historical financial performance of the bond dating back to 2014 when it started. So any transactions that were pending or actually came through, they would have seen in their spreadsheets and reports that were provided to them. So they would have been aware that we were anticipating it, and would have, it's always been accounted for. It's just a matter of it actually shows up on this spreadsheet when we actually receive the funds. But there's other spreadsheets that it shows up on that the public doesn't necessarily see, because there are internal spreadsheets that we track everything with.
Okay, so I think, Carla, then we can prepare for this question.
So I have another comment, is why would there be any sort of footnote notations about Prop 51 funding on these reports that we as CBOC receive every month, if there was no connection to CBOC to Measure E funds?
That's a very good question, Carla. And that's exactly what I'm looking for, is that documentation that gave us the permission and the action to actually have those funds be represented on this report.
Okay. So how do we want to move about it?
Carla's mystified on that one.
Clarissa, I got another couple questions regarding the contingency up and beyond the OPSC. Back last month, you showed the program contingency of 16.3 million.
Uh-huh.
And of that, 15.9 million was OPSC.
Uh-huh.
So that meant 0.4 million was basically in the contingency.
I don't think that math is quite right because it wasn't a one pot. It got separated based on projects that were funded by OPSC. That's what my understanding is.
I see. So last month of the 16.3 million, how much is the contingency, the real contingency?
I don't know off the
That
top
would
of my
come-
head.
That would compare with the.
I'd have to go
contingency-
back and research that.
Yeah, it's kind of mixed up. Seems like we're losing our traceability here.
No, it's still traceable, Chip. It's just that the OPSC dollars, when you pull those out, you really get to see how much is truly left in the contingency pot if those OPSC dollars are not available. And so if you recall back in, I want to say February or March, we were down to about 1.2 million.
Right.
We received funds from Brookville and Patterson, which was about $9 million in March or April. And then we received another small sum, two sums of money, I think in June, which then bumped us up to that, the $16 million that we see now. And so our true contingency has been very low. And so with these replenishing of the OPSC dollars has made us kind of flush again. But
Right.
once again, the conversation is, what is this OPSC money available to be used for? And who gave the direction to Vanner as well as CBOC to use those dollars to replenish the bond? And that's where, I'm kind of stuck right now because I can't find that documentation. And that's where they're kind of holding my feet to the fire to say, if we didn't tell you to do it, then you're not supposed to be using it. And I'm, as I said, stuck in the middle in that this stuff happened way before my tenure. And I don't know where to turn in terms of finding the answer for it. So that's what we're looking for now.
Downsides of too many people going in and out of the of the organization.
Well, I don't know also if there's a definitive answer for that, other than is it best practice or industry practice but what I think Kelly, what they're looking for is something specifically that said, this is your direction to do with this money. So that's what we're trying to help look for that as well.
Okay, so I think next month we would like to see more clarity and answer to these questions. Can we expect that, Kelly and team?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'm very straight. I'm a straight shooter.
I will do the best that I can to provide it for you. And if it's not available, I will let you know. But my plan is to have it ready for you guys in December.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, do you want to say something?
I just, these are murky waters. They really are. And I was just looking through my notes to see whether I could find anything. And I have something, there was some sort of, and you might remember this, Brian. There was the CBOC sent a letter to the board about some, I lost it. It was in 2017 or 2018. I'm sorry, I'll see whether I can find my note. There's just been too much turnover in the past several years, way too much turnover. But do you remember, Brian, something that the CBOC sent a message, a memo to the board, on 5/31/18. And it was, I have it under a recap response to the program budget overview with contingency mentioned. So our committee sent a letter to the board on 5/31/18, and we were supposed to receive a response on June 28th, 2018. That's the only leads I can give you, Kelly. So there
Right.
should have been something back to, and it might been that part of the contingency, or it might just have been the general contingency. But Brian, do you remember that discussion?
It's-
Somebody
Please go,
wrote the
So,
letter for us.
Assuming the committee is okay with me speaking.
Oh, sorry.
I was thinking, I was just waiting for Kathy to stop so I can say, Brian, please go ahead and speak whenever you can, whatever you want to talk about.
So your notes are fantastic, Kathy. I have the letter. And one of the bullet points, as we recommended, was all matching funds from Proposition 51 be allocated to the bond program contingency until the contingency risks have been resolved. And so certainly we've advocated, the CBOC's advocated for that. I don't know if we ever got a response though.
I showed that there's a response. I say, look for the response on June 28th.
What year was that, Kathy? June 20?
5/31/18 is when we sent the letter.
And I'll send a copy of the letter to the committee after this, since I have all those memos, at least while I was chair.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
And well, okay, I'll leave it. I have all sorts of other thoughts too, but
I've also
So
just
it-
asked Stan to start helping out with some follow-up and look for that as well.
So in
Brian, please.
March of 2021, March of this year, the contingency was 3.4 million. And then the very next month in April, it jumped to 16.4 million. And I'm looking at those two reports and it's not clear to me now that we're having this discussion, how did it jump up so much?
It was
It was the inclusion of the OPSC dollars.
yeah.
If you look at the footnotes in the first, on the first page, there's a summary. And if you look at the footnotes, it'll say, A, B, C, D, and E. And there'll be letters next to the funds that were received up to that date with those designations. So you'll see it there. And then you'll also see it again in the program contingency line.
Yeah, there's no letters on the program contingency line. And there's no footnote that says OPSC. There's Prop 39. I can show it. Let me.
So Prop 51 is the OPSC funds.
Prop 51.
Yeah, Prop 51 is the OPSC funds.
But we do see Prop 39 on the first page.
Correct.
Instead of Prop 39 and yeah. Do you guys want to share it so people who are watching it can see it too while we are discussing what we see?
Want me to share it?
Yeah, please go ahead, Chip.
Okay. So here's where this is April 7th, 2021, and it jumped to 16.337 million.
Right, but if you go to the very first grouping of where it says actual, and you go over 1, 2, 3, 4 to the 5th column, where it says augmenting revenue totals, you'll see A and B listed there as well as C. And you'll see within the fiscal year of 2021, you'll see the 12 million. I can't see, is that 924 or 024?
12,924,000.
Yeah, and you'll see down at the bottom on the footnote, it says that is Prop 51 funding. So
Right.
within this fiscal year, that's the $12 million that we got in and was listed as being received within the fiscal year and put back into Fund 21. And then you see the previous 2 years of, I think that's 2018, 19, and 19 and 20.
I see
And
that.
those funds are identified as well.
Yeah, I see that. Okay. Good thing about this is it's very confusing.
Yeah, and that's why we wanted to break it out. And when you go to the summary, now in the format that we have it, each one of those line items is now broken out for you to clearly see, you know, what it is.
Mhm.
There, the program contingency lists the 16 million, but on the new report that we've given you this month, it'll actually show you the Prop 50, you know, the Prop 51 dollars, as well as the contingency dollars. And then
Right.
all of the current budgets for the current construction projects as well.
Right.
I know Brian wanted to say something, but he hesitated. Brian, please feel free to talk because you were part of CBOC for a long time and you have really good insight on the history of the funds. So please feel free to.
Thank you for giving me a minute. This may be too candid, but I think this is somewhat disingenuous because this has been a past practice for decades, not only replenishing funds for Prop 51 to the bond, but replenishing projects that were out of sale of sites and state matching replenishing there. So it's, I think this is the wrong focus. The focus should be on what are the district's needs and making the case for that and building trust that way versus trying to talk to try to search for some policy or some written statement. I think we're much better off trying to figure out what the right thing to do is for our kids. So this definitely frustrates me because I think some of the board members that have brought this up it's not the way I would approach it to build trust, to build on something Carla alluded to. Anyway, and thank you. Apologies if I went a little too far, but thank you for giving me that minute.
No, I think that I was actually thinking about the same things along the same line, that we should be not looking for past historical statements, rather focusing on what matters. It's history can be made now. We don't have to look for historical statements and do the right thing right now. So
I just wanted to share with you all as well. So not to negate the conversations that have been going on, but the reason the conversations have come up is that the district staff have identified additional projects that are priority and need to be funded to actually keep us in compliance and keep the doors open on some of our facilities. The challenge lies in that those facilities are no longer part of the scope of work in terms of the projects that have been already funded by the bond. So part of this discussion is to, one, identify where the funds are coming from, but also make a determination if there's a need for reallocation of funds based on emergency priorities that we have in front of us right now. And so it's not a complete conversation because we haven't finished doing the full analysis, but this is the road that they're going down in order to make a determination to decide where they're going to get money from to do, you know, a new roof at Wybell or Maloney, or to fix the, you know, the broken HVAC system that is totally shut down at one of the other schools that, you know, you have to remove staff and students from areas because the systems are not working. So it's part of a bigger conversation. And the Measure E is, it's here. It's part of what the mandate is in terms of fixing this facilities. And so they're just trying to grasp that any opportunity that they can understand and know where they have funds available to actually address the needs that are in front of them. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I would like to say that I grant that. And there are needs, but you have a bond measure that was voted upon by the citizens for specific uses. And the reason they set up oversight committees, because sometimes decisions were made in a variety of places, and it wasn't necessarily Fremont that, well, we have this need, and the need over here is a really big need. And so where's money to fund it? And they pulled it from pots of money that were voted on for very specific purposes. So, you know, how do you balance those two things? Yes, the district is meeting shortfalls. And from the last conversation we had with you, Kelly, maintenance costs are at 20% and we're only funding 5% of it or something like that. I mean, it's appalling. But the voters did vote on a certain set of needs that were supposed to be met. And now, if the understanding all along as we were moving along on this infrastructure improvement was that there was going to be a temporary borrowing from the fund in order to do some of these needs immediately, but we knew that it was going to be reimbursed from the state, then the question becomes, I think, the validity of that. But I'm not arguing that we're in dire need, but I am saying that you're not going to get citizens to vote for another bond measure if at some point they look at it and say, well, you know, I know that the roofs need to be replaced, but that's not what I was paying my extra property tax on, you know, and our obligation is to uphold that. And it's up to the school district and all of you in there to figure out how to fix the bloody leaky roof. But our responsibility as members of this committee is to make sure that money is spent in accordance with what the bond measure said. So.
Right.
And it's difficult.
Yeah, and that is the reason why I sent you guys, when I sent you my first email, I sent you the language from the bond, that this is what the committee was made for, so that we remember.
All right.
Yeah, I know it's tough
I will
conversation.
carry all of your concerns and your comments back to the superintendent and the associate soup. And hopefully I can have some answers for some of these questions that you're raising and get some of these things clarified. So.
Thank you, Kelly. Do you want to share the project status report now?
Yes, Lisa, please do.
Yes. And I'll make it a quicker
just-
one.
I
Then
want
we
the room to
left.
calm down. So Lisa, please go ahead.
Oh, Lisa's working on it. Share screen. Here we go. Okay. Got 3 screens going here, and I got to remember how to get this up here. Here I want this. And share screen. Here we go. Okay. All right. So the November update. This is items, activities that happened over October. The good news is all projects are moving forward full steam, including those in design. This first page are, of course, projects that are in design. Thornton. So increment 3B, which is the modernization of existing classrooms, that has gone through all of its paces in DSA, is approved, and we are currently moving toward putting that out on the street for procurement. They're compiling an addendum, which is just final comments for the document, the contract documents. And so increment 3B will go out for bid here by hopefully the end of the November or sometime in December. Increment 4, which is the new admin library, that is still in DSA, going through its paces, and we anticipate that to come out of DSA at the end of the month. And then it will quickly follow going out onto the street for procurement sometime December, early January, with a spring start for that one. Centerville, the last thing that's in DSA or getting the agency approval on Centerville phase 3 increment 2, which is the locker room modernization. That's out of that's out of DSA. We've received approval on that, and they are currently in the course of putting that package together to go out to bid as well. November, December timeframe, with an award and construction start of January 22. Kennedy High School is still in design. We actually just went into DSA with the 100% CD package. So we anticipate it'll be in DSA a few months, with hopefully getting out of DSA by February, get out on the street February, March, with an award of March, April, and NTP to start in May in time to set up the interim housing and get ready for a June start of construction within the building itself. So that's moving along very well and through the process. Group 1 elementary classroom, elementary schools, that's the 5 elementary schools. That is still in design. We anticipate that going into DSA sometime the end of December, early January. So it's moving through its process. The designers have finished their project assessment phase. We will go over initial reviews and then take that initial design package to the board for approval for scope. Construction, Hopkins, I have one quick correction to make. On your right, you'll see highlighted, actually the report that you have says fall of 2023. That should say summer of 2023. So Hopkins is moving right along now that we have gotten confirmation that the site is staying at Lila Bringhurst. We have asked the contractor to provide an updated schedule as to what his anticipation is on pulling some of those new buildings, the construction schedule for those forward. We anticipate having that. We've got an initial draft today, but it looks like with them staying at Bringhurst until next summer, that's going to allow the contractor to finish buildings A and B, which are the admin library, and start building G, which is the science wing, which was not supposed to start until next summer. So they are actually being able to pull some of these pieces of the scope forward, some of these buildings forward in the schedule. If all goes well, we should be able to see a savings of a few months on this contract. Provided, all projects right now are dealing with supply chain issues. As we all know, we've discussed it in the past. They do continue, but we're seeing a little bit of easing on that on some of the projects. So for example, Centerville had quite a list of issues in terms of supply chain, but the largest one was steel, and steel has now started to arrive, and they have started to begin steel erection on Centerville. Thornton, the 5 new buildings in the back, which are increment 2, those buildings are moving toward completion. which is why they are now able to go ahead and put increment 3B, which is the modernization of the existing classrooms, out on the street, because as they finish the 5 new buildings, which are increment 2, then all of the existing classrooms will swing into those new buildings, and that will give them the opportunity to have the existing buildings empty and start construction on that. So all of that is moving forward very well. Centerville, as I said, is moving forward. They are currently in phase 3, which is currently right now just building H, which is the new 2-story classroom building. So that is in steel erection. And if you go by, you'll be able to see that it's going up quickly. As long as the steel supply keeps coming, we'll be okay. Horner locker room expansion project, that's pretty much done. I'm sorry. Yeah, the locker room expansion. That's pretty much done. There are some punch list items that the contractor is working on, and there are some asphalt corrections we have to make. But ultimately, those 2 new portables are in place and are completed inside in terms of the modernization. However, Horner locker room is experiencing a supply chain issue where the lockers themselves, last month we were notified by the manufacturer that the lockers would not be here till December. We have just now received an update letter from the manufacturer where those are now delayed till January. However, Horner they are currently not dressing for PE anyway. So that is not impacting any sort of education or PE schedule. So hopefully if things shake loose, that might come back in. But right now, the current standing for that delivery is January. So those locker rooms, the portable locker rooms will stay where they're at, locked, et cetera. That will complete the project and we'll just wait for those to arrive. And other than that, Washington High School Theater is in closeout. We have 2 items that we're waiting for there. The ticker tape marquee is experiencing a supply chain impact of some replacement parts on the end of the marquee on both ends, 1 panel on each end, that are coming from India. We don't have an update right now as to when those are coming, but we're considering that a punch list item so that the project can continue to close properly through the agency. So other than that, everything's going really well. Any questions?
The buildings that you mentioned last month that had the roofing problems, how did they all survive during the big rainstorm 2 weeks ago?
Well, in our last conversation, we talked about a couple different things. The roofing at buildings A and B at Hopkins, they were able to get all of the existing roof off, get any existing impacts to the substructure covered, and they covered the entire thing, sealed it all in plastic. So we had very little dampness inside the building. The concern then was if we were going to come back, if the site was going to come back in December, that would impact the interior of the structure. But now that they are not, we are in full demolition and it's really just bare studs and concrete in there now. So there was no impact. The other roofing situation we talked about last month was in relation to the Group 1 projects in design and specifically Matos. We do know that they have a very bad roof and it's going to need full replacement. That was part of the discussion that we had. I don't know, and I don't know if anyone has heard, Kelly, about any issues at Matos in terms of the roofing, but it's more of a structural issue than dry rot and structural issue than open leaks, hopefully. So, but current projects under construction, we had no water intrusion issues through this last rainstorm, knock on wood.
Very good.
Right?
Shiv has a question.
Yes.
He's asking, do you know the location of locker rooms at Horner?
The location of locker rooms at Horner?
That's what he wrote.
Yeah, I mean, exactly where it is, which side? Is it on Chapel Street or exact where it is being located? Do you know?
Oh, where the new portables are?
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
So Siv, they're directly in front of the side entrance as you go down. And I'm terrible with the name of the streets, but
That's
if
what I was trying to remember too.
yeah, if you're facing the school and you go to the street that's on the left, you make that
Yeah.
right and you go up maybe 1/4 the way up the block, and there'll be a driveway. It's gonna be that building directly in front of that driveway, where you see
Okay.
the new gates and the new fencing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're fairly
Okay.
adjacent to the existing locker room.
Okay, thank you. And what do you mean by punch list? I don't know the term.
Punch list is a list of items that the design team, the project managers, construction manager, and the contractor all go walk the project. They walk through the buildings and they identify things that need to be corrections that need to be made, or items that aren't quite up to par in terms of finishes, and we give them that list of things that need to be corrected. And then the contractor will go through, make all those corrections, and the team goes back and checks them off again until they're meet the standard that the project management team expects in terms of
Can you
finishes and
still
quality
modify?
control.
Can you still modify items to your punch list?
No, not technically. Yes, you could, but the process is that you should finish all of your work and have everything complete. And then we complete the punch list. Once all of those items are done, the project is signed off and done. So typically, we try to we frown on trying to make any kind of corrections after, unless there is something that's been discovered during the punch list walk or shortly after during the process of closeout that we find that is egregiously incorrect, then yes, we will make that change, those modifications, and have that corrected. But again, it's a correction, and so not a new modification.
And
I
who
hate-
can do it? Is
Say 1 second.
it Kelly or is that, yeah, that's it.
They're usually small deviations from what they should be. You know, it might be a dripping faucet, or something small that just needs to be corrected, right, Lisa?
Correct, right. Paint that's not up to standard that we want them to touch up. We might see a bubble in the new flooring might have a bubble in it. They need to make that correction. Small items like that, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I hate to pause you guys because I just want you to know that FAC is starting, so they need to switch the meetings now. But there are some items, I don't know if we are already not online, but there are some items that we really have to vote on before we move forward for the public records too. So I know if there is more discussion, we can come back to it, but let's vote on one item that is a must item. We need to vote on that we want to continue having meetings remotely. That is what was the request from FUSD team.
And this is actually per AB 361. It's a state law that we have to affirm the need to continue meeting virtually. Has to happen every 30 days for committees, for Brown Act committees to continue meeting virtually. So even if when we have meetings, if they're more than 30 days apart, there may be the need that we even have a special meeting to bridge that 30 days so that every 30 days that's reaffirmed to continue meeting virtually. I can send more information, but we're adding it to all of the agendas for Brown Act committees starting this month, and I will send you more information, but it's something that we must, that I'm asking for you to vote on tonight.
This is Carla. I move that we continue to meet virtually, that CBOC continues to meet virtually.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Chip. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes, and we'll continue to meet virtually. Okay.